Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. I am Holly Poole. I'm a professional astrologer and a healthyologist. I hope you enjoy the video today. Today, I've called the video the joining together of the masculine spirit and the feminine spirit. And so before I started today, I thought I'm just going to pull a couple of cards just to see where we are. And the very first card I pulled was this one. And this is the Yule, the winter solstice. And what we know at the winter solstice is, of course, that's the beginning of the sun god. And it is a time of coming into change and finishing. Sure, it takes us through a bit of stagnation. And then when I pull the next card, I came up with the Beltane, which of course is the springtime and the opening of the doors and the awakening of everything within. And vibrationally to me, that so feels like where we are. So again, I had already chosen, well before those cards, I had chosen, the masculine spirit joining the feminine spirit. And both of those cards show exactly that. So I think, and one of the reasons is we're going to see Mars and Venus do a bit of a dance between now and that full moon and coming up to like the new moon. So that's, and we all have, and I'm not talking female and male as you talk about a human body. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the internal sides to us that represent the feminine and the masculine. And in astrology, we refer to the water signs and the earth signs as our feminine. Our masculines are generally our fire signs and the air. So again, we all have all of that within us, bringing out different parts and parts of our personality, enlivening us to a lot of feeling, that internal masculine and feminine. And I just think up here on the earth side, down here on the earth, but happening up here in the ethers and the heavens, we are feeling from an internal body section. We are actually very much feeling like a central part to us coming together. It's an amazing time to be alive. Sure, there are chaos around us when you think about Ukraine, you think about the Middle East, you think about all the negatives and the wars going on. I mean, of course, they are horrific, absolutely horrific. But will we perhaps see some of that now starting to straighten its way out? We've just been sitting with Jupiter and Uranus. Jupiter, the planet of expansion, Uranus, the planet of like unexpected events. Who knows what was going to happen? Who knows when that was going to blow up? Who knows? So we're now going to see that Jupiter is moving its way along, and we're going to see later part of May, we will see Jupiter go into Gemini. Thank God. You've heard me say before, I'm so happy to get Jupiter out of Taurus for many, many, many reasons. One of the things is, I've talked about this all the way through, it's it's the banking industry. And so I believe that when Jupiter comes into the next sign, being Gemini, I think we'll start to see things shifting and changing with inflation rates and all of that. Also, Jupiter in Taurus also makes us eat more. I know that everybody thought this whole COVID bit is a lot of what had me yum, 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 getting it all into the mouth. But I'm going to tell you, Jupiter in Taurus makes us crave sugar. So you can blame your weight gain on that. That's what I'm doing, blaming it on that. And when Jupiter goes into Gemini, that's a totally different vibrational energy than it does in Taurus. Taurus represents, in medical astrology, Taurus represents our whole thyroid. It represents our whole throat area, the representing of the combining of the hormones. I mean, how many of you over the last 2 years since Jupiter's been in Taurus have had these emotional, hormonal roller coaster rides? That's so typical of Jupiter going through Taurus. And once it comes out of Taurus and goes into Gemini, hopefully as well, we'll be able to get that whole appetite under control a lot more. Let me share my screen here, and I'm going to start, obviously, a couple of days previous to the full moon. The full moon in May is actually on the 23rd. And so what I have here in front of me is the 20th, because full moons, planetary alignment, all of this is about planetary alignment, sort of pulling up towards this. So in May, on the 23rd, we're going to have a full moon in Sagittarius. And it's going to be at 2 degrees Sagittarius. So our Sagittarius friends born in later part of November, so those around 24th, 25th of November, is going to absolutely really feel this full moon. One of the things I had often thought I would do a year's class of getting together online with people and doing rituals for new moons and doing rituals for full moons, and seeing how that actually works intentionally. And I'm going to fall off on a different topic here for a moment. So most of you that have been following me know that I have a bit of a green thumb. I love the whole gardening. I love the awness of setting a little tiny seed that I can barely see on the top of my finger and have this amazing flower, or in this case, I'm talking about tomato plant, arise from that teensy tiny seed. I mean, I know that's been around since, we always say in Newfoundland, since Moby Dick was a guppy, but it's it's just every year this time, I am absolutely in awe, absolute awe. And so back at the solar eclipse, the 8th of April, back at that solar eclipse, I set tomato seeds. I'm happy to tell you my tomato plants set from those seeds are now 1.5 feet. Yes, 1.5 feet high. I'm an Aquarian. just because people tell me this is so, or this is how it works, or I don't always fall for it. So I actually did a different experiment. My tomato plants that I set on the solar eclipse is, as I said, 1.5 feet high. I waited till after the ecliptic energy was sort of done and over. So I waited for 1.5 weeks later. And I set more tomato plants. If astrology is right, then the tomato plants done at the solar eclipse should be higher. We're going to see. We're going to try the experiment. So I use the same packet of seeds. I use the same grow lights. I use the same watering, feeding schedule. I had them on the exact same table as the solar eclipse tomato plants. My solar eclipse tomato plants are 1.5 feet high. So they're 18 inches, give or take, 18, a couple of them are 19 inches. The ones that I planted not on the solar eclipse, they are 7 inches. No, I agree. There's a week and a half or 2 weeks in between. They're not as healthy. As a matter of fact, they're really kind of measly. So it was an interesting experiment. So again, I say to you, just because somebody says this is how it works, challenge it. Do your own experimenting. And this is what I love about astrology, especially when I have a brand new client. Maybe somebody has given them a gift certificate. So they come and they're sort of like, well, what's she going to tell me? I'm going to have 15 kids and I'm going to be married and grow to be an old age, and that's the way it's going to be. So we do the astrology reading. And first the mouth is, and then the mouth goes, and then the mouth goes. It's always interesting. So then I always say to them, if you had not pre-written this, how would I know this? And that's where astrology is the proof there. I know nothing about the individuals other than their name, but their birth date, birthplace, and birth time. And you create a chart directly for them. That's an experiment that I do 4 or 5 times every day, because with new clients, they are in awe. And they are in awe because there would be no other way that I would know this about them. So as I said, do your own experiments. If you're into gardening, we've got a brand full moon coming up on the 23rd of May. Plant plants on the full moon. You plant plants that grow underground. So like potatoes and carrots and beets. On new moons, you plant things, flowers that are going to grow on top of the ground. So you can be sure that at this full moon, upcoming full moon on the 23rd of May, I will be planting some beets. I will be planting some carrots. I will be planting some radish. Let's see if it works. What do we have to lose? And I invite you to do the exact same type of an experiment. Now, if you're not into gardening, that's okay too. Not everybody is into gardening. But if you're not into gardening, think about the next new moon, and that's going to be on the 6th of June. Think about what type of a project you want to start on the new moon. You got some time between now, you got a couple of weeks between now and that new moon. That new moon is actually going to be in Gemini. You got some time to give it some thought. The full moon, which we're going to see here in a few minutes, is all about shining the light on what is ahead of us, shining full light, quite often even on what we set at the new moon. Coming back to the gardening again for a second. Once these plants go outdoors, if you have inside plants, you can do the same thing. I then will always create a watering schedule. Obviously, they get watered every day, but a watering schedule with food, plant food in it, always on the new moon and always on the full moon. That automatically works so well. It's an option and an idea. All right, let's get to the astrology. So I'm looking at the 20th of May, and the sun on the 20th of May has just entered into the sign of Gemini. So our Gemini friends are coming into the time for us to be able to say, happy birthday, coming along to our Gemini friend. We have one planet. That's it. We don't have any of the asteroids. We don't have the Centurion. We have one planet that is presently retrograding, and that planet is Pluto. Pluto started to retrograde on the 2nd of May. And if you look on the outside rim of your chart, you're looking for the sign of Aquarius. This is the house, whatever house the Aquarius is in. This is the house where the universe, God, spirit guides, guardian angels, whatever your belief system is asking you to do a review since October of last year. Pluto turned direct in October last year. Pluto is done. Change, 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 change. Okay. 2nd of May, Pluto said, okay, I'll sit back here now because I'm retrograding, and I'll let everybody in the world rethink and recheck and recreate and re-ask. Did they like the changes? How are they going to work with the changes? Always, 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 always remember, we always have choices. And one of the major choices we always have is, how are we going to react to these changes? So first of all, if we react and it really pisses us off, makes us mad, step back and go, why? Why? What part of me has not been healed on that? And I'll give you a little example today. I was at a car showroom waiting for my mom's car to get fixed. And we were just talking, and I was asking one of the salesmen, about the transmission in this particular vehicle. I was asking about the horsepower. I was asking, what cylinder, so on. And then I had said to him, I said, I wished I was a lot more knowledgeable to understand some of those wordings. And he just looked at me and said, oh, you're one of those that just gets in and turns the key and drives away. That did not sit well with me. I didn't say a whole lot. I simply said, actually, I'm not. I happen to know a lot more than you may think I do. But after I walked away from there, I thought, Holly, why, why did that irk you? What part of you internally needs a bit more healing work done? Because otherwise, there was no reason to react. He's entitled to his opinion. He can say what he likes. He's entitled to his opinion. It doesn't make him right. Why internally is that irking you? So it's really quite a reflection that is going on for all of us. And a good portion of this has to do with Pluto. Pluto is digging down. Of course, Pluto is sitting on my sun sign. That's not helping any. But Pluto is digging down through world affairs, through large corporations, through Pluto is what is bringing a lot of the corruption to the surface. Pluto has stopped doing its work just right now. As I said, Pluto started to retrograde. Pluto's sort of sitting back, arms crossed. Let's see what falls out of everything that is being done. Pluto won't turn back around again until the 12th of October. So Pluto's got a bit of time, giving you a bit of time to reflect, to think, to check, to see how this is all rolling itself out. Why did I say we were combining the masculine spirit and the feminine spirit? Well, mainly because Mars is traveling through Aries. Mars is considered the masculine, the masculinity. You know, if we are a female and we're looking for a male as a partner, you want to look in your chart to see what sign your Mars is in. That's the type of a male archetype that you would be interested in. So Mars is our personal planet of aggression. And right now, Mars is traveling through Aries. Mars rules Aries. So Mars is very strong. Also today, the moon is in Scorpio. Mars is also rules Scorpio. So Mars is also in rulership of this moon. And that's probably what kind of dug down its nails underneath there to dig out healing parts of us that needs to have further healing. Then we also have Venus. Venus is traveling through the sign of Taurus. Well, Venus also is the femininity sign, and Venus rules Taurus. So Venus is very strong, Mars is very strong. And perhaps that was a bit of an archetype of the conversation. The male individual sitting behind the desk looks at the female and kind of goes, oh, you're one of those. Gets in a car and just drives away. That was the connotation because you are a female. That may not have been his thought process in the background. So it's always important to look planetary wise. I mean, they were pulling very much on that moon in Scorpio. And if you want to do anything, do not piss off a Scorpio. So it was a timing up there in the sky, just right for the happening. How did it affect you? This is a thought process. Now we're coming into that 23rd of full moon. So let's go there to that full moon. And that full moon is, I'm going to move it back. I need to move it back just a bit. So the moon will be at 2 degrees Sagittarius, and the sun is at 2 degrees Gemini, directly across from each other. Now, one of the big things on that particular full moon as well, excuse me, is that we have a fair number of planets at 29 degrees. In our chart, all planets go to 30 degrees. Every sign has 30 degrees. Jupiter is getting ready to leave Taurus. Yes. We're not there yet. But Jupiter is getting ready to leave Taurus. Jupiter's at 29 degrees Taurus. At the same time that Venus is at 29 degrees Taurus. The other piece is that Neptune is at 29 degrees Pisces, which is a very interesting connotation. Venus rules Taurus, so she's kind of ruling both of those Tauruses. Jupiter rules Pisces, which is where Neptune is. So this is a nice little bundle that's going on here. In astrology, we call it a sextile. We like sextiles. Sextiles are great. So this full moon is an absolutely fabulous time to do a ritual. And part of that ritual has to be all around what is my truth. Sagittarius is all about truthfulness. It's all about laying the cards on the table. It's about being upfront. It's about being honest. It's about saying what you mean, meaning what you say, and being allowed, giving self permission, allowed, in order to feel that sense of security, Taurus, and also connecting with Neptune, my dreams. I will also tell you that nighttime dreams will also be extremely vivid through this timing. So it's a very intricate full moon with so much karmic energy through there. Now, after the next day or so, I'm somewhat concerned over this Mars. Remember in April, the 8th of April, we had that solar eclipse. Remember that solar eclipse was at 19 degrees Aries. And remember, Chiron was also at that 19 degrees Aries. If you haven't looked at my solar eclipse video, I highly recommend you go back to that. I did a very long discussion, hopefully an interesting long discussion, on Chiron and why this eclipse was so massively important. I don't think it was because of the eclipse. I think it was the connection with Chiron and the healing of the wounds, on the earth plane. Today, which by the way is the 15th of May that I'm recording this, I wrote on my Facebook page, Holly Pool Astrology Facebook page, I wrote about all of those solar flares that is happening, all of those sunspots, all of the high resonance that's going on, the flares going all over the place. And I just get an intuition that what it's doing is that it is zapping out zapping out the old, congealed, no longer applying energy that's been around forever. You know, NASA is saying we've not seen sunspots like this, so many solar flares happening like this, so much atmospheric happening like this. That's right. But that's also because we've not seen Chiron in the midst of ecliptic energy like this. And if you go back to my solar eclipse video, you will see me talking about Chiron being the wounded warrior and going from the wounded warrior to the greatest healer. Yesterday morning, when I got up, I just felt that the air had changed. Vibrations had changed. Vibrational energies had changed. And when I pulled a card to ask, is that correct? And I come up with the Sacred Grotto card. The Sacred Grotto card is really about, kind of going into that cave and taking a moment and sitting in it. And I invite each one of you to do that. Sit in the energy field. Does it feel different out there? It massively feels different to me. We have been talking about leveling up. The old has gone away. The new world is emerging. And I just think that the energy fields around us all had to change first. I'm looking forward to this full moon. I want to see what that shows me. Now, I'm also going to watch to see Mars. When Mars is directly within that exact ecliptic energy, that is the 26th of May. You can mark your calendars that day. That's an interesting day. Mars will be very explosive in there. And when we think of explosive, we think, oh my God, no, that's a real problem. Sometimes people need an explosive under their arse to get them out of a rut. And I think Mars coming together with Chiron, I'm hoping the energy is going to be about the fact of enough of all of the BS. Enough. Done. And as it is coming and moving, let me tell you, you think we've seen solar flares. We've seen nothing until Mars steps into this energy pattern. And Mars then will come. Let me come back for a moment, though. Also on that exact day, the 26th of May, Jupiter comes out of Taurus. Can I get a round of applause, everybody? Jupiter comes out of Taurus and moves into the sign of Gemini. You're going to find that there's a lot of another change that happens in the energy. And the change of this particular energy is going to be more of an open door for talks. It's not really surprising to me that with the with Jupiter and Uranus and so on going through Taurus, that the talks, the Israeli talks and stuff has all flattened out. Taurus is all about money. Taurus is about who's paying for what. Taurus is about give me the money, you know. Jupiter and Gemini will open that door for talks. And I hope that happens in the Middle East. I hope it happens with the whole Ukraine situation. I really hope that Jupiter going into Gemini will do that. Is that what Mars creates the kapoof of? Is there a world event that gets created and makes everybody go, oh, you know what? Yeah, maybe we need to talk about this. Maybe that's a good idea. Then I want to see Mars coming. Mars then comes to line up with Chiron. Excuse me. And now we're on the 29th of May. Mars lining up with Chiron makes all of us want to do something either about our wounded warrior. So either, remember, life's about choice. It's going to make us either sit there and go, oh, poor me, life is really bad, life really sucks. Or it's going to go, this is the situation I'm in. This is exactly the situation I'm in. What am I going to do about it? How am I going to work with it? How am I going to make this happen? I'm hoping that for all of you, you've worked with your Chiron in your chart. You've managed to take that Chiron. You know, I was listening to Carolyn Myss the other day. Carolyn Myss wrote a book called Sacred Contracts. I've also thought it would be lovely to do that course with people as well, about the contracts that we write with people. But she also talks about the contracts we write with self. And sometimes people talk about they don't have a huge sense of intuition. Carolyn Myss says your ability to use your intuition comes with your self-esteem. If you have very, 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 very low self-esteem, you have crappy intuition. The idea to work with your intuition is to build up your self-esteem first, then work on your intuition. I had never thought of that before, but it just makes so much sense. And I think with Mars and Chiron coming together, working together, I think society as a whole, and that includes you, society as a whole is going to say, we are all wounded. We all have wounds. We are spiritual beings living a physical existence. And in the existence, in this physical existence, we've got to pull our act together. That's what we've got to do. And the way to do it with your chart is working with your Chirons. Many ways within your chart, but Chiron is one of the major pieces within the chart. Then as we come along on the 31st of May, Uranus and Mercury line up together. Now this happens, you know, every 13, 14 months, but this is often can be some very shocking news. Is shocking a bad thing? I wasn't necessarily thinking it was a bad thing, but when Mercury lines up with Uranus, Uranus is the planet of unexpected events. And there is often timings when we have this unexpected communication come right out of left field. That's Mercury coming through. I also suspect that there is a lot of conversation coming about finances. I'm hoping 31st of May, they're telling us, they're going to tell us they're lowering the interest rate. That's what I'm hoping. Because it creates a trine. We like trines. It creates a trine with Pluto. Pluto says, I dug down through some stuff. And so I'm going to bring this all up to the surface. And I'm going to make sure that this gets talked about. This is the first trine we've had with Pluto in a long time. So Jupiter and Pluto will be having the discussion. Mars will be having the discussion with Chiron, saying enough of this wounded warrior bit. We've got to find a way to do massive healing with all of this energy. And Uranus will come up with ideas way out in left ball field here to make us go, oh, now there is something like I never really thought about before. It is opposing Pallas Athene, the asteroid goddess Pallas Athene. So what the energy there is, my very first indication when I heard something like that would be to get out there and fight and get out there and so on. Maybe that's not the answer. Maybe the answer comes from a totally different alignment. So it'll be an interesting, I hope when you watch those videos, I hope you mark the days and see how it plays out in your life. As above, so below. The planetary alignment is happening up here. Is it affecting you? Yes. Is it affecting me? Yes. Is it affecting Bobby? Yes. Is it affecting Sally? Yes. Is it affecting Helen? Yes. Is it affecting Joan? Yes. Are we all having the exact same experience? No. Why? Because it interacts with each personal chart differently. And that's why when I work with clients on doing like their second and third reading, we go month by month by month by month, because depending on where this is showing up in an individual's chart, tells us what part of their life that's going to show up in. It tells us how it interacts. I did a reading with a lady the other day, and she has a yod in her chart. So a yod looks like a Y, which means that every time a planet comes by, so it looks like a Y. Oops, sorry, a Y, like that. And so say she has Venus, I don't remember what the planets were right now, and say this is Mercury, and say this is Saturn here. Every time that there is a planet that comes by and say lines up with her Saturn, it doesn't just affect her Saturn. It affects every other planet that is connected to that Saturn. So astrology can become very, very intricate sometimes. And that's why people sometimes can feel that it's very difficult to understand. That's why, as I say, I'm giving you a bit of an overview as to what the energy will feel like. If you write it in your personal calendar, then you can determine how it's rolling out in your particular life. Then we come along, now we get to the 1st of June. And one of the things we're kind of watching here is that Venus is sort of running with the sun. We're going to see both of them catch up together. Both of them catch up together. That'll be the 3rd of June. So for those of you who follow me on Facebook, you'll hear me talking about Venus is sitting in the heart of the sun. They're both at the exact same degree. Now, what we're going to see is that Venus is going to go past the sun. Venus is going to go past the sun, and Venus will get so far out. And when we get to the end, no, the beginning part of next year, Venus is going to get too far away, and the sun will pull it back. This is called a Venus star point. This is often a timing on the world stage when Venus and the sun, we call it a Cazimi Venus, it's the same degree. This is often a huge changing point that happens on the world stage. So check in on the 3rd of June. And of course, we're heading towards the new moon. There's the moon coming to line up with the sun, and that's going to be the 6th. I think we said the 6th of June. Yeah, that's going to be the 6th of June. So as we're at the 3rd of June, we are now in what we call the dark of the moon. And the dark of the moon gives us a time to do resting. It gives us a time to do planning, because when the moon gets here and lines up with the sun, the 6th of June, then it's going to start its journey all the way around again. So everything starts at the new moon. You're probably going to plant some flowers at the new moon, seeds for flowers, because they grow above ground. When we come to 4th of June, that's also going to be an interesting day, because now both the sun and Venus are still traveling together. They're still at the heart of the sun. Venus is in the sign of Gemini, which says there will be lots and lots and lots of discussion. Gemini is topics and conversation. Mercury is sitting at the same degree as Jupiter. So there will be lots of open discussion. You can mark in your calendar that is a huge day to have lots of discussion about upcoming changes that is necessary and wanting to take place. I'll go to the 5th. And here we now have the sun and Venus at 15 degrees. So we're now traveling absolutely together. This is a rare occurrence. Generally, you get 1 or 2 days that you have the sun and Venus sitting together, but it's unlikely you get more than 2 days. And we're now into the 3rd day, and I'm going to leave it here. Because this is when we step into then the new moon, which is going to be the new moon in Gemini. Thank you, everyone, for coming and hanging out with me, spending time with me, going through the whole alignment. If you have not already subscribed, please do so. And it really helps the channel if you hit the thumbs up button. Thank you very much. Hopefully, our paths will cross again. Take care. Bye-bye.